Campbell, your career spanned from 2002 to 2010, 159 games at the Hawks. You had an absolute purple patch, didn't you, from 06 to 09. You averaged 22 games a season. So you were blessed without having injuries, and your form was, you're absolutely at the top of your game. Now, you mentioned Alistair Clarkson bringing that new form of discipline to Hawthorn, giving it some structure and some real backbone. What was was there a defining game in a particular year where you said things have changed, we're on the right track?
Could gradually see it through 2006. 2004 sort of Clarko's first year, and he was blooding some young kids, and we were still trying to work out what the game plan looked like. 2006, we started to make some progress, and towards the end of 2006, I reckon it was the last 4 games, is when we started to implement the full ground press.
Yeah. Yep.
So that took a little while to sort of work it out. And as a defender who loved to play hard man on a certain player, I'd love it when you've got Aaron Davey or you've got Jeff Farmer or whatever, and I just wouldn't really leave their side unless I was sort of trying to go off and get the footy. So to sort of sell that message to the defenders that, no, you've got to leave your man and you've got to press hard forward and guard grass. Yeah. And if your man is lurking out the back, well, he might get an easy goal or two. You got to wear that. It was hard to adjust, but we won a few games at the end of 06 and we could see that it was working. And we went into 2007 and really we got off to a fly. I think we won sort of 8 or 9 games in the first 10. And we realised that, you know what, this game plan stacks up. And, we had some senior guys that were becoming really good leaders in Sam Mitchell and Luke Hodge and that. Richie Vandenberg had done a great job being a leader of the place through that transition.
Yes.
And we tasted finals for the first time in 2007, and they probably should have lost to Adelaide, but Buddy had that day at Etihad Stadium where he kicked 7, the match winner. And, there's our first ever victory in a final. We got bundled out.
A memorable day for you, Campbell, that day. Hey?
Yeah, it was an interesting one. I played on Mark Rasciuto, who was his last ever game, and I thought Adelaide were the better side that day, but we just had one man, and he was a freak that day, and it was Buddy, and we worked out that the big stage was meant for him, and attacked 2007-8 pre-season, and a lot of credit has to go to a guy called Andrew Russell, who was the strength and fitness guy, who's now at Carlton, best in the business, absolute freak, knew everyone's bodies, knew how hard he could push us, worked the training program around us individually, but collectively he drove us like a beaten favourite, and he just the absolute best out of the playing group. And we had our best side on the park more often than not because of that. And, 2008 we just came of age.
Campbell, I'm really keen to get a comparison between you and your old man then when it comes to that kind of physical management or body management, as you said, that existed in the 2010s as opposed to when he was playing. Because I've spoken to some players and it's chalk and cheese, and the players of your dad's generation were left physically really impacted by their careers because of either the style of play or the training regimes they had, whereas players of your generation haven't been as physically impacted. I don't want to say that you've walked away from the game, with the body of a 20-year-old, but you know what I mean. Have you and your dad ever discussed those different approaches?
Yeah, a little bit. He did his ACL, and back then they would just go in and take the cartilage out, and away you went, and quite often you'd be bone on bone for the rest of your career until you couldn't run anymore and you retired. And a lot of those guys from the 70s, 60s and 70s have had, arthritic knees and things like that pretty badly. We're lucky with modern medicine and just, the treatment we got. We had, lots of physios and doctors and access to MRIs and scans the very next day and everything. So we really were fortunate in terms of injury management and surgeries and stuff like that. So while I had some injuries, a lot of broken bones and stuff, I have walked away from the game, relatively okay in comparison to some of the the former players that we still hear today need hip replacements and all those sorts of things. So yeah, a little bit lucky, and that's the luck of the draw, in a way, a little bit. Yeah.
Campbell, tell us about that day on the calendar. Oh wait, it's in Boston goal. That big day in September. 16 possessions. You kick one through the big sticks. What was it like on the way to the ground? How were you feeling in the car? How were you feeling in the rooms? And to run out in front of 100,000 people on the biggest stage of all?
Yeah, it was a great day. Obviously, the highlight and pinnacle of my playing career. And I like to describe it as the arrogance of youth a little bit, because while we played Geelong a few times and we knocked them off in 2006 and early 2007, and we played them in 2008 and lost by a goal.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, we didn't fear the Cats. They were the best side in the comp. They'd won the flag the year before. They'd only dropped one game for the whole year, but we always felt that their game plan of sort of play on at all costs, bring it back through the corridor, suited us a little bit, because we had some fast, elusive forwards that were pretty good defensively in terms of Sirioli and Michael Osborne. Mark Williams, when he decided to roll the sleeves up defensively, I would always go forward for one game of the year, and that was against the Cats, and that was for that exact reason. And if you go back and you look at sort of the history of Hawthorn Geelong, in early days, it was never Ruffy or Buddy that kicked big bags. It was always the sort of medium to small elusive forwards that would kick a couple each, and we'd challenge them. So rolling in that day, we'd had a perfect lead up. We won the qualifying final by 10 goals.
Yeah.
Won the prelim by 70 points. We're pretty much injury free in terms of players were banged up. Obviously, Hodgie had, his broken ribs, and I'd played through that final series with 2 broken bones in my right foot.
I was going to say, mate, you were injured, so you played through that pain. Yeah.
And it had hurt post-game, but I managed to get myself up to play each week with some painkillers and stuff. So we went into that game with our best 22, feeling confident that we could challenge them. And if they'd have kicked straight in the first half, we would have been cactus, because I remember going in at half time, they'd had so many opportunities and inside 50s, and we were hanging on by the skin of our teeth. Trent Croad had gone down with his broken foot, so we were a key defender down. Cam Mooney was looking menacing. He kicked a couple of goals, and he should have kicked his third on the halftime siren, but he went back and hit.
Yeah.
That was a pretty psychologically big moment, because we've gone in at halftime and we were somehow in front. We had no right to be in front, and Clarko sort of, really wound us up in the rooms. He gave Mitch an absolute dressing down, which was, I'd heard him give some sprays before, but I've never heard him give one that big to the captain.
Really?
Just demanding more from him. He'd gone in at half time, I think, with 3 or 4 possessions only, and he's our premier midfielder. Lingy was tagging him, that he would have done it on purpose, because he knew Mitch could handle it, and we all went, oh, geez, if he's given Mitch a mouthful like that, we better follow suit. And real arm wrestle for the first 10 minutes of the third term, and then the game just exploded open, and I didn't see it coming. Stewie Jewett had moved forward because I think he was a little bit sore. We'd lost Clinton Young at the start of the third quarter, so rotations are down, and he went forward just on a whim, and then the game just lit up, and he was involved in a couple of big goals. Set one up with Mark Williams, and before we knew it, we were 5 goals up, and they kicked a couple late in the third quarter, which we sort of were a bit dirty on because we allowed them back into the game.
Yeah.
And we just knew we had to hang on in that last quarter, and hang on we did. So it was a great moment. I certainly know had Geelong not been so inaccurate, they probably should have won that game because they beat us in clearances inside 50 scores, all the KPIs.
All the KPIs, yeah.
But we took our chances on the day, and it was magnificent.
Can you remember Clarko's address at three-quarter time?
Yeah, vaguely. I obviously remember the pre-game because it's the shark, the famous story about the shark.
Yep.
Three-quarter time was just more about, this is the journey we've been on for 4 or 5 years. Remember Kokoda. Remember what you stand for as a group. And then he called us all in really close. He just said, boys, 20 more minutes and you'll be brothers for the rest of your lives if you can win this premiership. And, we as a player, it's sort of weird because as a young player and a kid, I've been to every grand final since 1992, pretty much. And even when I got drafted and was an AFL player, you'd still go to the grand final dreaming of it. But I never really thought that I'd get the opportunity, especially so early on, I suppose, under Clarko's tenure. So it was great just to get there, and we were full of confidence. And, I didn't have nerves at all going into the game. It's funny. I felt like, we belonged and we deserved to be out there, and we won a flag, which was good.
Your mum and dad must have been absolutely over the moon, Campbell. But your old man, obviously, with football coursing through his veins, he must have been on cloud 9 when you've had the premiership medallion dangling around the Gregory Peck. Eh?
Yeah, he was. No, he was really proud. Never one to show too much emotion, but the old man came down into the rooms after the game, obviously with my mother, and you just tell by the smile on his face that he was really proud. And I think more importantly, he said to me, not only did you win a premiership, but you really contributed out there on the day as well. So that sort of to have played arguably my best game of footy ever, I still rate it because I started forward. Kicked a goal, set up a couple of goals, and then when Crody went down with his broken foot, just for a necessity, I got thrown back and had to play on, Lonergan, Mooney, some of those guys in the half, and take some marks and do some spoils and do some things. I look back and, really proud of not just winning the flag, but also the performance that I put up.
I'm keen to know what you, it's a two-header. When's the last time you watched a replay, and what have you kept from that day? You've obviously got your shorts, your jumper, your medal. Is there anything else that's especially significant from that particular day?
No, just those things you mentioned. I think Croft rang me this year earlier and said that he was going through his wardrobe and he found my jumper at his joint. So I don't know how it got there. I could have sworn on my life it was just behind me here in my cupboard, but somehow it made its way to Croft's joint. So I need to go pick that up off him. But just those bits of memorabilia are fantastic. And CUB did a slab of Carlton drafts, and they put the 2008 premiership sort of team in there in the photo. So we all got a carton of that. And I made sure I didn't drink all of them. There's still a few of those left.
It's funny you say that, Campbell. It was a grand final tradition many years ago, obviously, when Mel was running around it. You swapped your Guernsey with your opponent. A strange one that you swapped it with Croft.
Yeah, well, that's exactly right. The clubs make you change your jumpers about at half time and everything as well, because they auction them all off. So there must be a few jumpers floating around from that day. I've spoken to some others that swear that they bought my grand final match worn jumper, and I'll be stuffed if I know how they got it. So there's probably some bullshit like that.